Hello, this is Dana with the 54th segment of the Master the Bible Today series, a snapshot of the book of Lamentations. Jeremiah authors this book soon after the fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC, written to teach people that to disobey God is to invite disaster, and to show that God suffers when his people suffer. Jerusalem had been destroyed by Babylon and her people killed, tortured, or taken captive. Jeremiah's grief for his people ran deep. Tears are defined simply as, quote, drops of salty fluid flowing from the eyes, unquote. They can be caused by irritation or laughter, but are usually associated with weeping, sorrow, and grief. When we cry, friends wonder what is wrong and try to console us. Babies cry for food, and people cry at the loss of a pet. Adults cry when confronted with trauma and death. Jeremiah is called the, quote, weeping prophet, unquote. His tears flowed from a broken heart. As God's spokesman, he knew what lay ahead for Judah, his country, and for Jerusalem, which was the capital and the, quote, the city of God, unquote. God's judgment would fall on them and destruction would come. And Jeremiah wept. His tears were not self-centered, mourning over personal suffering or loss. He wept because the people had rejected their God, the God who had made them, loved them, and sought repeatedly to bless them. Jeremiah's heart was broken because he knew that the selfishness and sinfulness of the people would bring them much suffering and an extended exile. God had warned that he would destroy them if they abandoned him. Now afterwards, the people realized their condition and confessed their sin. God's warnings are justified because he does what he says he will do. His punishment for sin is certain. Jeremiah's tears were tears of empathy and sympathy. His heart was broken with the things that break God's heart. Jeremiah's two books focus on one event, the destruction of Jerusalem. The book of Jeremiah predicts it, and Lamentations looks back on it. Lamentations is a dirge, a funeral song, written for the fallen city of Jerusalem. Our world is filled with injustice, poverty, war, and rebellion against God, all of which should move us to tears and action. We must never trust our own leadership, resources, intelligence, or power more than God. If we do, we will experience consequences similar to Jerusalem's. Jeremiah mourns for Jerusalem, but in the middle of the book, in the depths of his grief, there shines a ray of hope. God's compassion is ever present. God's compassion was at work even when the Israelites were experiencing the affliction of their Babylonian conquerors. God's faithfulness is great. He used this affliction to bring his people back to him. Jeremiah realizes that it is only the Lord's mercy that had prevented total annihilation. At times like these, we must pray for forgiveness and then turn to God for deliverance. This book shows us the serious consequences of human sin and how we can still have hope in the midst of tragedy because God is able to turn it around for good. We see the timeless importance of prayer and confession of sin. We will all face tragedy sometime in our lives, but in the midst of our afflictions, there is hope in God. God's mercy in sparing some of the people of Judah and Jerusalem is proof and offers hope for better days. Only God can deliver us from sin. Without Him, there is no comfort or hope for the future. My prayers are that one day the people will be restored to a true and fervent relationship with God. Because of Christ's death and resurrection for us and His promise to return, we have a bright hope for tomorrow. Read Lamentations and learn what it means to grieve with God. Thank you.